Hello everyone, welcome back. I am Fer, and this video, much like the wives of Henry VIII, is divided into two parts. First, an anecdote, which I think has a lot to say, and then just the general update about the big science video. So let's begin with the anecdote. So when I was little, my parents had a business in a mall, and both of them worked there, like my mom and my dad. And so often, instead of just leaving me and my brothers alone at home, they would take us to this mall. And luckily, this mall had an arcade. So of course, me and my brothers would go to this arcade to play video games for hours and hours, right? And one time I was in this arcade and I was just finishing playing a video game when I turn around and I see this huge family. Like it had the mom, the dad, the children, but also like the grandmother, nephews, nieces, uncles. I don't know, like they were easily like 7 or 8 people, right? Like I think 3 or 4 adults and all of the other were children and very little children, like 4 or 5 years old. And they were just walking around the arcade and they were like looking for what games to play. And then all of the children see these racing games. And I think you've seen them. They are a lot like a car in the sense that they have like the drive wheel and the pedals and the drive stick, and it is all connected to a video game, right? And so all the children are like, this one, this one. But then the dad looks at it and he says like, no, not that one. I mean, none of you can even reach the pedals and you don't know what the drive stick is for. Like, no, that's gonna be enough for you. Choose something else. And all the children insist like this one, and he says like, but we can only pick. I think they could only pick like 3 games or something. They have very little money, and like they knew exactly how many games they could play. And yet all the children were like insisting, and eventually one of the children said like, you play it. And the other is like, me, but I brought you here. And they like, you play it. You know how to drive. And the dad is like, okay, they are all insisting, and it does look fun. And so he sits there and they take like one of their precious coins. And again, they have very few. I think they had like 3 or 4. And then they just put one of the coins and then the game starts and the guy is trying to figure out how to win. Like, and it wasn't one of those normal driving games. It was one of those crazy driving games where like a lot of stuff is happening on screen. I think there was a giant plant eating you or something like that. And then all of the family is gathered around him and they are watching and they are cheering him on. They are all having a lot of fun. But then I look just to the side and there is one guy with one child, right? And this guy is dressed impeccable in a suit. And he looks very elegant. He has like a very elegant haircut and something. I think he even had like a briefcase or something. And his child is pretty much the same age as these other children. But of course, this child is also dressed impeccably, right? And with his hair all pulled to one side or something with a lot of gel. And this child is looking around and he says like, oh, this one. And that's like, yeah, sure, whatever. And then he just takes one coin, he had a lot. And he puts the coin and the child starts playing. And the dad is just waiting for the child to finish, right? And the child is not even really enjoying it. He's just like looking at the screen and the child doesn't even know what's happening. I don't even remember what game he was playing. Maybe it was one of those shooting games. And the kid was very short. He could barely look at the screen. He could barely reach the controls, but he was trying, but he wasn't having a lot of fun. And they were right beside this other family, and they were like just having a blast with this racing game. And I just stood there looking at that whole scene, like it was a theater play put on just for me, like a metaphor for something. Because I knew, even I was very little, but I could tell like this has to mean something. And then I just continued looking, and eventually. The dad finished the race. I don't think he won, but then the game was over and he just said, continue, 10, 9, 8. And they were like, oh, so we have to put another coin? And then they all looked and said like, oh, no. And then they stood up and they went looking for some other game in the arcade. And then there was this other child who was barely able to play the game at all, like looking like this. And somehow he hadn't lost. but I guess at some point he just lost interest. And so he just let go of the controls and he started walking. And then the dad was like, "Oh, you're done?" And they just continue walking through the arcade. And I thought a lot about that moment ever since that happened. And I think, I mean, you're free to interpret it in any way you want. But back then and today, I remember thinking that what that moment meant is that what makes things valuable is the people we share them with, right? Because this huge family, they were enjoying a moment. They were sharing this moment with all of their loved ones, right? And that made it really valuable. Not just in retrospective, but in the moment, right? They were having a blast. They were having so much fun. I've never had that much fun playing video games in an arcade. Well, maybe one time, but that's a story for another time. And then this guy and his child, they were not having fun at all because they were not sharing that moment with anyone else, right? Maybe if the father have taken some interest in the game that his child wanted to play, it would have been different. You can easily imagine the child trying to, I don't know, explain the game to his dad, or maybe the dad explaining the game to the child, maybe if he understood it better, or something, or both of them trying to figure out what the game was about, because often in arcades they have these very weird games that weren't very clear. But it's easy to imagine how they both could have enjoyed that moment a lot more if they had been able to share it. But this guy just didn't want to. He was just distracted by something else. And so, yeah. And now the update is that Habemus Animator. I have finally found an animator that can help me with the video. So this is great because the animations are like a big part of the video because many explanations need to be visual, right? And learning to make the animations would be just way too time consuming. So I just needed to find someone I could hire to do them for me. And I struggle a lot to find this person, but I have finally done that. And so now I am paying this person. This person is already started on the animations. They have already delivered a few of them. And so now I have to put them in the video because, yeah, I have to. There's still a lot of work to do. The video it still requires a lot more than just the animations. But yeah, I think it is going well. Finally, I have all the pieces. So now I just have to put them together. So expect the next big science video sometime next month. It cannot be more than 1 month. I'm gonna put all my energy into finishing that video in less than 1 month. So expect it sometime in the next 30 days. And so yeah, see you soon and thanks for watching.